Trustworthy and person-centric AI, today and tomorrow.
Okay, so hello everyone. Very interesting presentation before this. At least I managed to keep some of the crowd, so that is excellent. So today we saw a lot of different perspectives here. So we saw regulators, people from the blockchain space, Web3. We had a really interesting one now from entrepreneurs. So really happy I came early to avoid the Malta traffic this morning. So that was very worth it. So from my side, I'll be speaking to you about AI. I think it's the first presentation about AI today. So I'll try to go a bit in depth as well, a bit more technological. And I'll also look at it from two perspectives. So the MDIA perspective, where we regulate, promote, and support innovation, but also my own perspectives as an AI developer. So it will be quite cross-functional. So here we just have some of the jargon explained, basically. So by person-centric, what we mean is just AI as a tool for people. So we don't just look at the what and how when we build AI systems, right? Because as a developer myself, sometimes I tend to get lost on the accuracy of a system. For example, can I get this to even above 99% accuracy? What deep learning models am I going to use? But sometimes we have to stop and think, why? So why do we build the AI system? And this is what human-centric AI is about in this definition from the EUC. Sometimes we should take a step back and say, we should build systems which help the benefit of society. We improve our own quality of life. So systems which make us more efficient, more happy. This is person-centric AI at its core. Small side note, the image creators from AI are actually getting more accurate as well, as you can see. Both hands have all 5 fingers, so AI is moving along as well. So moving on to trustworthy AI, this is the standard definition of lawful, ethical, and robust by the EU, but in very simple terms, it's the same approach they use in software development. So building secure systems, cybersecurity, data privacy, and of course, the biggest indicator of trust in terms of the system, the accuracy. So this is also very important. Now, is there a problem in AI trust? This is something which I think we don't talk about. I think people on the street often say, listen, I want to use AI, but I'm not sure if I trust it. I'm not sure if these systems are accurate. Are they giving me good information? So let's dive into that a bit. This is from our own survey. This was done in 2023. Closing of the year. It was done with about 500 or so respondents, 16 and over, and surprisingly at the time, only 67% were familiar with the term AI, so it's quite a low number, to be fair, given how popular the technology is these days. And this will tie into something that I will get into now. So this is from the Edelman Trust Barometer. This is an excellent study that is performed every single year since 2000, I believe. 32,000 plus respondents, 28 countries. So this is a really good way to gauge how people are trusting something like government, systems, AI, cybersecurity. Very key insight here. And the interesting thing is, the more developed countries fear AI more than the developing ones. So this is something interesting to dive into, because the developing countries, of course, have more access to social media. They have more access to AI and computers. So why the distrust? And I think it ties into a number of things. So it's important to say this was done back in 2023. So we did not have comprehensive regulation back then. It was still being drafted. So there was a fear of AI being unregulated, a fear of AI doing things it should not do. And there's also things like deep fakes and stuff like this, which was quite popular around this time. So it's understandable that developing countries were fearing AI. And this is from our own survey as well. So from Malta, from the 500 people we did the study with, only 27% on average said they fully trust AI. And it's also important to say that only 1%, however, believe that it has no potential benefits. So a bit of a contrasting statistic, right? So 99% of people see a benefit in it, but only 27% trust it. So if you see a benefit, why not trust it? And I think it ties a lot into familiarity. So things we're familiar with, we acclimate to easily as humans. In fact, from our own survey, it's interesting to see that the highest percent of trust was 44% in biometrics. Now, biometrics in regulation, I think they're the most high-risk system, or one of the high-risk systems in the EU AI Act. So I think biometrics achieve the higher trust rating simply because people are more used to them. We've had iris recognition for a long time. We've had face detection for a long time. So I think familiarity breeds trust. So that's most likely what is driving the statistic. And building on that, also from the trust barometer, this is very interesting to look at. So 76% trust technology, which is well and good. But only 50% trust AI, which is a subdivision of technology. And again, I think this also goes into familiarity. Let's go back 20 years. Many of you, you're older than me, I think, so that's better for this example. You remember the internet, the inception of the new technology. And people were very skeptical back then. So if you say that today, I think people will laugh at you. The internet is such a widely accepted thing, smart devices everywhere. People have embraced this technology a lot. So again, familiarity breeds trust. And we've come to trust technology and the internet. AI is a very novel thing to the public society, because as of 10 years ago, I was building systems and I was the only one interacting with them as the scientist. But these days, my mother uses ChatGPT for travel suggestions and to make recipes. So the general public has gotten access to AI, and it can be quite a fearful thing to see such a powerful system for the first time. So it will be interesting to see if we move forward 1 year now and see the trust barometer for 2025 and see how the AI trust will increase, and I think it will increase. So this is just a little something as a kind of case study. Google I/O unveiled this earlier this year. It's a really interesting technology. Essentially, it combines a multimedia approach, and in their demo, they have a person with a smartphone in front of them. They're taking a live video, and they are speaking to their phone. So Google Gemini is responding in real time, for example, taking a video of a picture of a car, and the person asks, what is this part of the car? And the system responds immediately, it's the chassis, it's the undercarriage, it's the tire. So that kind of multimedia input is a very novel thing. It's very interesting and also very helpful potentially to people from the person-centric perspective, because it can help people even with impaired abilities as well. But this is a case study, not just to promote this technology. I'm from MDIA, not from Google. We have to think about the person-centric and trustworthy approach of this, because if it's handled incorrectly, maybe it can discriminate against people. Maybe you can take live videos of people and get information about them. So we have to keep these things in mind always. Innovative tech is amazing. We promote it, we support it as part of our functions, but it's also important to think of why always. Why do we build the system, not just what it does and how it does it. So moving to a more positive approach of how we can get to person-centricity and trustworthiness, these are some of the little flavors you can put in your recipe to build more person-centric systems. So accountability, thinking about the health and safety of people. You also think about how you can customize it, make it a more personal AI, so every single person gets a more tailored experience. It's quality of life, essentially. You're improving how the system interacts with the person. On top of that, you have autonomy, of course, so you're not impairing the person. They still have all of their rights. They're free to move around. They can do whatever they can do normally, but enhanced. That's the point of AI, in my opinion. Human-centric design, you just keep the person in mind. So when you build the system, you say, how will the end user benefit from this? Is there a benefit? Sometimes there isn't. And on top of that, always fairness and inclusivity. And when I say this, I say it also from a technologist perspective. So don't build systems which can't help a certain group of people, for example. Always try to help as many people as possible. So something a bit more technical here. So let's go into data handling as well, because building AI systems isn't just about building the model and seeing what fancy CNN or neural network or LLM you're going to use. It's also about the data. Actually, primarily, it's about the data, because when we're building AI systems, about 80% of the process, sometimes more, sometimes a bit less, is just curating the data set. So it's important to think about how we handle the data at the initial stage. And here is an example, just a visualization of a technique called a differential privacy. And I'll go into a very high-level detail about this because it's a mathematical thing, but essentially you add a bit of noise to your data set, and it simulates a person opting out without a big diminish to the results. That is the positive of this approach. On top of this, I'd also like to mention something called federated learning. It's been around for a number of years, but federated learning is interesting because you can train a number of separate systems on their own infrastructure, so the data is on those little systems. the updates of that model, the AI system is sent to a central location, and the central location only sees the updates to the model. So you don't get people's data centrally. The data is kept in the little nodes connected to that. So it's a good way to handle privacy, to keep users' data safe, and also to improve results, as federated learning has been shown to improve results in some cases. I'd also like to mention explainable AI again, something that's been around for a while. This is something we call GradCam as a technique. So XAI is nice because it shows you how models learn. Because AI is black magic most of the time, right? There's some kind of bare metal mathematics happening under the hood and you don't know what it is. XAI helps with that. So in the first example, you have a model explaining how it notices that it's a dog or how it notices that something is a cat. Of course, the model has gone through the usual process of training, but XAI shows you what features were interesting to learn at that point in time, like a dog's face or a cat's ears, for example. And it also shows you potential false positives. So looking at the second image, the classification of the horse is correct, but not because the horse was used as the core feature. The little label at the corner was used as the core feature. So when you have the next image of the car, it would also think it's a horse, right? So the first case, you think it's correct, but it isn't. And then it's exposed later. So XAI is very good for this. And I really hope to see more approaches about this technology in the future, too. So speaking a bit about regulation here, I know it can be a cat and mouse game sometimes between innovation and regulation, but there was a panel earlier which really made a good statement about this. Regulation should be used as an accelerator for technology, not as a control or a stifling mechanism. And that's exactly what these regulations should aim to do. So this is the EU AI Act. As some of you technologists know, this came into force last August. It's the first comprehensive regulation on AI in the entire world, and it centers on the European Union. And this will be fully enforced by August 2026. There's a phased approach every 6 months where something else comes into play. And on top of that, there's also the framework of the Council of Europe. That's more international. It also includes countries outside the EU and focuses a lot more on human rights. I'll speak briefly about the AI Act because it's good to know about. It's a risk-based approach, so models are classified based on their expected level of risk. For example, a social scoring system is prohibited. That's definitely a bad system. But you might have something which is of minimal risk as well, where you don't have a system, for example, that is controlling people's access to the workforce or controlling their access to public benefits. Simpler systems are minimal risk, so they won't have many controls. What the Act does is if a system is high risk, you have to perform some conformity assessments and make sure your product is in line. Essentially, it's there to protect people, apart from protecting the developer. So here's a little bit of a call to action to end this presentation as well. So we really like to see people taking advantage of the supportive ecosystem that Malta has to offer. We're very AI forward. We've been with an AI strategy now for 5 years, since 2019, with a vision for 2030. On top of that, there's plenty of government support and funding available for new startups and SMEs as well. So quite the ecosystem to be a part of. You can join programs such as our Sandbox, and we're also soon going to launch our Digital Innovation Hub to help startups. Apart from that, always keep in mind to consider the impact your system will on the community. So if you're building an AI system, innovate by all means, get out there, build your system, have fun with it, make sure it works correctly, get that accuracy up. But always ask, why am I building this system? What will be the impact and benefit for people in the end? And apart from that, something we can help you with as well as MDIA, ensure compliance with the EU AI Act and other regulations like GDPR. At the end of the day, use regulation as your shield. So innovate again by all means. Think of regulation as something to help you get out there and make sure you're in line with regulations, following a common standard. It will also help clients be happy to use your services, so that's another benefit. And we'd be really happy to see you taking part in our programs as well. So thank you very much.